Hello and welcome back to the March to Independence series. I'm your host, Steve Friedman, parent, advocate, and author. And I'm pleased to share with you our next session, which is on health and wellness. This is really critical for everybody, but certainly for our people with Down syndrome. And so I wanted to raise some awareness in this session so you are equipped with information so you can get more information on how to ensure your loved one with Down syndrome is as healthy as possible. As parents of people with Down syndrome, we're generally aware of many of the health risks that occur at birth, whether it's gastrointestinal, cervical, cardiovascular. And the medical industry has made a huge amount of progress over the decades in being able to assess and treat these conditions at birth. So that's definitely a positive. What we're probably less aware of are the various health risks that are very prevalent amongst people with Down syndrome as they move into adulthood. So I wanted to share 6 primary health risks, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you may be able to do now in advance and how you can get more information. So of these 6, let's just talk a little bit about how prevalent they are, because these numbers surprised me and they may surprise you as well. Obstructive sleep apnea. This is not just snoring, but it is certainly interrupted sleep during the night, and it affects so many other aspects of our life, whether it's mental well-being, intellectual capability, and so being aware of that is really critical. So in the general population, 26% of people roughly have sleep apnea. In the Down syndrome population, 60% have sleep apnea, and oftentimes this starts at a very early age. Obesity. About 17% of the general population would be considered obese. In the Down syndrome population, that number is around 40%, and that doesn't include people that are just overweight but not obese. Many of us know this is a challenge within the Down syndrome community, whether it's genetics, metabolism, the lack of inclusion in sporting events, or other conditions that lead to that obesity, and there's many implications for people that are obese. Being aware of this and creating good habits from an early age will definitely improve your odds of fighting obesity and being as healthy as possible. Hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism affects about 5 to 10% of the general population, but 40 to 50% of the Down syndrome population. This is a big number. This also occurs very early oftentimes. You have to be tested in order to recognize this, although oftentimes people that are lackadaisical or slow in their daily activities may be suffering from hypothyroidism. So this is important to get tested. There's medication that can be taken on a daily basis that can address this, rather than mark up some of the symptoms of hypothyroidism as just symptoms of having Down syndrome. We need to be aware as to whether our loved one actually is testing with hypothyroidism. Celiac disease, not a very common disease either in the population, about 2%, or in the Down syndrome community necessarily, not as high as 40 to 60% as some of these other ones that we've talked about, but it's 15 to 20%, so 5 to 10 times greater than the general population. And so recognizing this as a possibility should be leading you, if there are conditions where you don't think that your loved one with Down syndrome is getting enough nutrients and is healthy in that regard, that we prompt our doctors to consider celiac disease and test for celiac disease. Mental health. Mental health is the 5th item on the list. People with Down syndrome are twice as likely to suffer from mental health challenges. Now, let's be clear about this. This is not related to intellectual disabilities that are associated directly with Down syndrome itself. This is mental health like depression, anxiety, OCD. Because it's not directly related to the genetic condition of Down syndrome, there's no reason why this needs to be anything different from the average population. But the challenges, I believe, are largely around communication. So we all have thoughts going on in our head. We're dealing with challenges in our lives, with opportunities, with fears, with excitement, and being able to share those with other people, our loved ones, professionals, friends, really helps for us to be able to figure out how to manage those issues in our life and work through them ourselves oftentimes and with others. The challenge with people with Down syndrome and other disabilities is oftentimes that the communication skills are lacking, or the open dialogue, or just and it's not communication skills from the ability to verbally speak. You can be using prompters or other devices to be able to communicate, but it's the ability to tap in below the surface and really understand what is going on inside the heads of people with Down syndrome in our case. What are their fears, and how can they communicate those and share those and get some remedy for things that might be creating anxiety or depression for that individual. There are many therapists out there in the general world, and there are certainly therapists that specialize in sessions and discussions and help for people with intellectual disabilities, and that is certainly an avenue that one can take to try and help our advocates with their mental health and well-being. Finally, I would be remiss in having this list of common adult health issues without addressing Alzheimer's disease. This is perhaps the biggest challenge within the Down syndrome community. Alzheimer's disease affects about 16% of the average population in the U.S. That's a pretty high number, and most families have probably had to deal with the impacts of Alzheimer's within their family unit. In the Down syndrome community, that number is not 16%. It ranges somewhere between 75 and 95%. It is that prevalent. Why is it that high? Well, part of the reason that it's that high is that in recent research, it's been identified that the Alzheimer's gene resides on the 21st chromosome. Well, as we know, trisomy 21 or Down syndrome means that people with Down syndrome have 3 21st chromosomes. And so that genetic marker for Alzheimer's is even more prevalent within people with Down syndrome because we have 3 of those 21st chromosomes instead of 2. And so the challenges are definitely there. Not only is it so prevalent in people with Down syndrome, but it oftentimes starts earlier. Some people see markers in their 30s. Almost everybody has markers by the time they're 40, and some people within the Down syndrome community are certainly afflicted by Alzheimer's in their 40s and 50s, and almost everybody by the time they reach their 60s. The population within the Down syndrome community is aging. This is a good thing, but it has challenges with it. So as the population is aging into their 60s and beyond, the prevalence for Alzheimer's will increase even further. Well, Alzheimer's is a huge challenge. It's one reason why here at the Essential Guide, we've partnered with LumMind IDSC, a fantastic national organization that has been formed to serve as a bridge between the Down syndrome community and the research community. And so they're doing wonderful things, clinical trials and research in order to try and eliminate Alzheimer's, and certainly the Down syndrome community has probably got a greater stake in this research than any other community. So we're proud to partner with people at LumMind IDSC. For more information, you can see that on my website as well. So many of these health concerns are actually somewhat tied together. People with sleep apnea tend to be more obese. People with obesity and sleep apnea tend to have more mental health challenges, and people with hypothyroidism, if it's not treated, tend to have low metabolism, which creates more likelihood of obesity and so forth. Many of these things are genetic, so you can't necessarily stop them or prevent them, but there are other things that certainly do benefit from healthy routines, nutritional routines, fitness routines. So we're joining you today from my kitchen because it's so important that we create those healthy routines at an early age. We role model them within the family, and we use the kitchen table as an opportunity to discuss these health risks. These are health risks that impact all of the family, most certainly our self-advocates with Down syndrome. It's important that we're aware, and it's important that they're aware of the challenges, and that we are as healthy as possible, that we educate our doctors on these risks, and we take the steps to be able to manage these risks going into the future. 3 ways you can get further information. You can certainly join our website at beyonddownsyndrome.net. There's blogs and resources and further videos. You can also continue to join our March to Independence video series on YouTube. And finally, you can check out our book, The Essential Guide for Families with Down Syndrome, Plans and Actions for Independence at Every Stage of Life. We talk extensively with a lot of support from medical doctors who are specialized in these areas about each of these risks and more. I encourage you to check out all 3 of those resources to get more information about the health of your adult with Down syndrome. Until next time, have a great day. Thanks.